Hey everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the last few days of Earth Month. Thanks so much for joining us, hopping in, and very much appreciate you guys attending here. Should be a good discussion with Tim Harvey with Austin Energy as we tap a little bit into what's going on in his world. We tend to do this maybe once a year or so. Just kind of getting an update, as well as sharing some news about what we've done as an organization. I think that, as you know, we're keeping busy as most of the energy industry is, but want to welcome you guys once again to April's happy hour with Solar Austin. Just a few rules, before we get started is that just an agenda is that we're gonna be presenting a little bit about Solar Austin's news for the next 15 minutes, and then we're gonna have Tim speak probably for 45 minutes or so, from 6 to 6:45. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat room or in the chat. Beryl and myself will be moderating that, and then afterwards we'll have 15 minutes or so for those questions. And of course, if there's anything specific that you want to hear about now from the beginning, feel free to drop it in. I've had some pretty good discussions in my breakout room, and hope you did too, just understanding a little bit about what it is that we want to hear. But I'll share my screen without further ado. And again, thanks so much for showing up. Appreciate that. So if you guys don't know, we are a team of about 15 people. Solar Austin is made up of all volunteers, and Beryl is our only part-time paid employee. There we go. And right now we are actually looking for an executive director position. So if you haven't applied already, feel free to send us a note, but we are reviewing, we're in the final stages of selecting who will be our executive director that will help lead our different initiatives and carry out into expanding our mission. So our story is almost 10 years old, in which Solar Austin was founded back in 2002. As one of the local chapters in Austin for the Texas Solar Energy Society. So as that, we have a 501c3 and a 501c4 that helps a little bit with the lobbying. And we've been able to get very deep into our mission of expanding the access and the education of solar across Central Texas. So we do that through a couple of different initiatives, of course, policy advocacy, which is CAIBA, our president's main priority right now, is to ensure that there's positive solar policy for lowering the barriers of adoption for solar. We do events and outreach such as these virtual happy hours, and we hope that as the vaccination tends to ramp up, then we'll be able to go back to doing some in-person events and some happy hours. Of course, there's education. We work closely with high schools in the different areas, as well as community colleges. Our Pathways program, and I'll let Beryl speak a little bit more about that since she's the program manager, but it's been a very successful venture in which we're providing pathways of education for college students and high school students that want to get involved in the solar sector. And last would be our community installations, when we start partnering up with other nonprofits, other centers in Austin, to begin with, to create these community resiliency centers. So speaking a little bit more about that, we have some news to share, is that we're planning for this upcoming summer to have our first or second actually donated install that we'll be doing for a very beautiful nonprofit in town called Children's Haven. They are located in Chicon and East MLK, just about. So this is a nonprofit that was created back in 1948 with the purpose of helping marginalized communities within Travis County and Austin, and providing them different resources so that they can get back on their feet and be a little bit more resilient and strong. So right now they have a very cool mission called Austin Threads, in which they are providing new clothing and accessories to create clothing for what they've identified as at-risk and foster and homeless kids. So we thought that this would be a very good opportunity to give them a donated installation, an 8 kilowatt system, and so that will be up and coming in the summer months. More news to come as we get closer to that. To speak more about the Pathways program, I'll let Beryl kind of take it away for the next couple slides and tell us what's going on.
Thanks, Juan. So the Pathways to Clean Energy Careers program, it was launched over a year ago thanks to this grant from the city of Austin, and the mission has always been to facilitate equitable career pathways for women students and students of color to kick off their clean energy careers in Texas. So right now we are actually on the lookout for, or we're launching our summer program. So we're on the lookout for companies who would be interested in hosting an intern, or individuals who would be interested in mentoring a student. There's more information about that on the Solar Austin website and actually in following slides. And for those of you who have students who know of students who are looking for summer internships and who are looking to get more involved in the clean energy sector, we are in that recruitment phase as well. So feel free to send them our way. This program is not just about placing students in these internships, it's about creating this very wholesome experience, a positive experience, by providing them supervisors and interns with diversity, equity, and inclusion resources, also through complimentary workshops, and providing students with life skills and through these professional development workshops with program partners. Of course, you could learn more about that on Solar Austin's website, which you can find at the bottom. Thanks, Juan, back to you.
Sure. So I guess along those news, we'll share some positive news we received from FTC Solar, one of our sponsors, and also one of our key partners that helped us get this started. Just this week, we heard back from one of their product managers who just really well summarized this experience of having an intern, in the sense that it was, had 2 resumes that they received that were pre-screened by Solar Austin, scheduled an interview with the candidate. And before you know it, 10 weeks pass, and this intern, Ali, was able to help, create these reports so that FTC Solar can now see their estimated and actual project costs, which is board level information that is very beneficial to the organization as they strategize and scale. So it's been a very effective program as we pair up the hunger that there is in universities to enter the sector and the fast pace of the sector to help marry that together and create good partnerships and harmony for the students and the companies. So as Beryl mentioned, we're also looking for mentors. So you might have a solar company but not have the willpower or the time hours to have an intern, but maybe you can be a mentor. You could volunteer a little bit of your time as need be with either the mentee or yourself to provide just a little bit of advice. There's a lot of people that want to get into the solar sector that don't necessarily know the best way to attack it or to understand it. Or there could be people that are already in the solar sector that want to pivot. So I encourage you to check out the Pathways Mentorship site in our website to complete this really quick application. It should take maybe 5-10 minutes or so that we can qualify it and then create better matches. Since, as I mentioned, we do have a lot of students, a lot of people in this sector that are interested in participating and getting a different understanding. So now to speak a little bit more about our sponsors. FTC Solar is our stellar sponsor, and I believe that they are announcing an IPO in the next couple of months if they haven't done so already, I believe. So it's pretty good news for the manufacturing industry here in Austin for solar. Some other megawatt sponsors that we have are Recurrent Energy, a developer, Yada Energy, a manufacturer of solar and storage, Mayfield Renewables, a design firm. We also have Orsted, another developer, Downtown Austin Alliance, who help keep our streets clean down in downtown Austin, and Freedom Solar, one of the leaders in solar installations and pioneers for solar. And thanks so much, Kyle, for showing up. I appreciate you. I see you over there. Following along with Power FM Partners, Z Prime, Hush and Blackwell, HEB, and There Might Be Monkeys. These are all generous sponsors that contribute to us keeping up the lights on and keeping up different initiatives going. Pipermatics, a solar recruitment firm, CD Green Tech, a distributor, Lighthouse Solar, led by Stan, one of our board members, and SunPro as well. So last page will be thanks to Greenhawk, Carol, who is our latest sponsor. And then there's also Greener by Design, Harris Energy Solutions, Greenbelt Solar, which is a solar installation company, Clean Power Marketing, and the Deering Group. A little bit more information in our website about these sponsors if you want to reach out, but really good partners, and hopefully they can help your business. And if you want to help out, we have different tiers of sponsorship. So feel free to either scan the QR code, check out the website, or send us a note at info@SolarAustin. But without further ado, here we can introduce Tim. So Tim has been leading the Austin Energy, the solar sector inside of Austin Energy since 2006, and we're very grateful that he can speak to us this year again, just to give us an update as to all the different initiatives that have happened, progress to those goals from the past, and then maybe new things that might be coming the way. So, not only is he passionate about clean energy to his professional side, but also his personal side as he drives an EV and has had solar on his plate. So Tim, thanks so much for your time, and looking forward to your presentation. And for everyone that just joined, feel free to drop your questions in the chat box so that we can moderate them, and then we'll be asking them at the end, closer to 45 minutes from now or so. I'll let Tim take it away from here. And
right, I'm working on the transition here.
There we go.
All right, thanks y'all for showing up tonight. I'm going to go over quite a few things. Here's my agenda. I won't read all this to you, but certainly have a packed agenda. So I'm going to kind of barrel through the first part of it so that we can focus more on the commercial incentive updates and proposed new format of the commercial program. So just a quick update about how we're tracking to our goals. As you may know, we have goals that are set out in the Generation Resource Plan to 2035, I believe. And so our 2030 goals are 200 megawatts of customer sited. That means it is at a customer's location on the distribution grid. And our current progress towards that is 99.9 megawatts. So we're just an inch away from hitting the 100 megawatt mark. So we're pretty excited about that. We are on track to meet these goals. And we have another broader local solar goal, which includes the 5-county area. That goal is 375 megawatts. And if you look over on the graph on the right, you'll see that our progress towards that is 273.3 megawatts. And that's if you count East Blacklands, also known as Pflugerville, which is currently being installed. So that one is in progress. We are very much on track to meet both of these goals, and will hopefully continue to be. So currently we have over 11,300 solar customers. And you can kind of see the breakdown here of the different classes of customers that we have. You'll notice that the non-rebated is steadily inclining and getting more and more of a share of that total portion. And that's because mainly there are a few new housing developments that are incorporating solar on all of their new installations, or new projects, I should say. So that's really helping to contribute to that. So yeah, and then you'll also notice that the vast majority of this comes from residential, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. So here you'll see on the right, in the graph, The red line represents the residential uptake. And this is based on incentive program participation only, I should caveat that. And so this is based on the installed cost that they provide through participation in that program. And so you'll see that this was our highest year for solar for residential in Austin. And we hit over $30 million in the market on solar projects. And if you look at the yellow line, you'll see that that's starting to wane and has been for the last, quite a while. So we're going to address that with the program enhancements that I'll be talking about soon. Also very exciting that Austin Energy is on our way to have 1 gigawatt of solar. So once the Pflugerville solar project is completed, we'll be there. And so that's another exciting milestone for us. I wanted to address some of the permitting and inspections concerns that are out there. We do know that our inspection time is longer than most people desire. And we've been working on ways to improve that. One of the ways that we're working on streamlining processes in general is by working with Development Services Department. And so we've been really engaging with them a lot more, trying to strengthen our working relationship. And I believe that we've done so over the last year, largely due to efforts from Micah Jasuda. He's really been coordinating with them. And so that helps us when we have an issue to go to the right channels over there to get our problems resolved. So one of the latest accomplishments was the solar pre-wire. We've got some procedures in place to now document that pre-wire. And so that's going to help that be a little bit more effective as we move along. We're also working to improve the Amanda permitting system. And so that's going to entail better tracking and reporting as we move away from incentive program participation and have this other set of participation that's not in the incentive program. We need a way to really track that data well. So that's part of the enhancement that we're looking at. We're working on the scheduling functionality in Amanda to streamline those processes and make communications a bit better and more thorough. Also, deficiency tracking. So when there's a final inspection, if there's a deficiency, the final inspector will put in a code, and that will be tracked in that system so that we can look back and see what the common deficiencies are so that we know how to adjust our training to suit those needs. And so another thing that's happened through this is that we've gained control of our auxiliary power permit fees. So we collect a portion of that fee because we offer the services to most all of the services to towards that. So we've gained control of that. We now are proposing new fees for FY22, and they will reflect our cost of service. Now that we have a bit more control over that, I think that that will likely go down for FY22. But just a heads up, and I don't have details on this, but it's my understanding that we will be instituting meter fees for PV meters. So there'll be more to come on that, but I just wanted to give everyone really a heads up that that's going to be an additional cost, likely starting at the beginning of the fiscal year in October.
Tim, on that subject, there was a question in the chat about Austin Energy participating in the solar app program from NREL. Is that something that Austin Energy is working on or no?
No,
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that. So, you know, and this is one of the things that we're really trying to address here is the inspection wait time. So we try to maintain a 2 to 3 week wait time for inspection. But ever since COVID, we got behind because there was delays there. And then we had some staffing issues. And so we've been more at around 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks on average. And we know that that's not ideal. We are in the process of adding 2 inspectors. We have identified the top candidates for both of those positions. So we hope to bring them on board relatively soon and then start to chip away at that long wait time. Another effort that we have to make things easier to do business with Austin Energy is to improve our distribution system interconnection guide, which we also call the DIG. And we're midway through the phase 1 update where we'll be updating the 1-line diagrams, organizing a bit to have a little bit more clarity and to align with the solar inspection checklist that we've created. And we're going back to areas where there was dispute in the past and trying to address all that to make sure that everything's in writing, that is very clear what the expectation is at the final inspection, and try to eliminate any surprises there so that the designs are designed correctly and, you know, we just have less issues at the final inspection. There will be a phase 2 to this where we develop the utility side interconnection requirements and also some more checklists for EVs and batteries. So more to come on that. Just a big shout out to all of our participating contractors. We're up to 67 right now that are eligible to participate in the incentive program, and I would estimate that we have roughly 100 contractors out there in total. So a big prop to all these guys that are doing good work. We do survey our customers on a quarterly basis, and here's just a couple or a few of the feedback that we got from them. The satisfaction with our participating contractors is in the upper 80%. So that's pretty good, and we hope to maintain that. And I'll talk about how we do that, how we help our contractors in a little bit. Here is the Austin Energy Solar team. So we have our inspectors, Rory Voigt and Alan Johnson. And then, as I mentioned, we have a temp that will come on for at least 6 months, and another full-time employee that will come on, and they will both be out there pretty soon. We have billing support from Shayna Lee, and our project manager is Micah Jasuta. He helps to keep our projects moving along and coordinate with DSD and other internal and external departments. Then we have our incentive program staff led by Sarah Norris, who is currently out on maternity. And in that staff, we have Valerie Paxton as a coordinator. We have Joe St. James and David Cranston, who both process incentives. David also is starting to take over the inspection scheduling with Mike Van Zant. And then we have Mary Palmer, who is dabbling in pretty much all this stuff, but is also the subscription program lead. And so we do outreach and education pretty regularly. One of the most valuable things that we do, I think, is our monthly contractor meetings. We've recently, in the last year or so, restructured those meetings so that we have 3 types now. They're very formatted and very structured. We try to address any current issues and also provide the technical and administrative training that contractors need to be successful in our programs, and to help with, trying to streamline processes and streamline inspections as well, by just, helping everyone be more informed of all the processes. Since COVID, we've been doing virtual outreach. We're working with Z Prime to develop a VR/AR solar education that will then kind of push out at events and to school districts and stuff. And we're also working on revitalizing the efforts that we've done with the schools in the past. So we're going out to the currently installed educational systems that are installed at the schools, and we're revamping them. Some of them are quite old and just need to be, they just have issues that need to be addressed. We're refurbishing and replacing the signage, and we're revisiting the curriculum to make sure that everything's up to date. So we still have the solar education program for residential. So the premise of this is that for consumer protection purposes, an informed customer is going to make wiser decisions and be able to protect themselves better from potentially predatory companies that are out there. So we think that this program has been very successful, and we get a lot of good feedback from our quarterly surveys on it. Here is a graph that shows that the average customer rebate has been going down periodically over time. We're currently at a $2,500 incentive. We have a roughly install cost of $3.38 a watt, and that's DC. And you can see that that's pretty much, and mostly leveled off for many years now. And so then we also have the system size. The average system size is right around 6.5 kilowatts. So that's pretty good. We think it's leveling off there. So here's some of the feedback that we've gotten through the survey about our staff. Super proud of our staff, and they work really hard every day to push these incentives along and make happy customers. So nothing but good things to say about my excellent staff. We also have the Green Choice program, which is based on West Texas wind. Customers can participate in that program at a 3/4 penny premium. So that's a floating premium on top. And then commercial customers can participate through Business Sense or Energizer or Patron. So they have different options. And depending on the commitment, the premium goes down for Patron at the top, which has the most commitment. And we're roughly at 20,000 subscribers now. And the participation in that program just keeps growing. Notable, we also power all of the electric vehicle charging stations with Green Choice, and the whole city. Every city account is on Green Choice.
A question that I received about Green Choice, Tim, is how does a typical renter have access to this program and select the program? How do they go about selecting Green Choice?
Yeah, I think you could just Google Green Choice Austin Energy, and it should take you to our webpage on our website. And then there you can participate. There's a link to participate through that webpage.
Okay.
It's very easy to sign up, no upfront costs, and no penalty for opting out.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep, and it's also portable, so if you move, you can take it with you as long as you're in the Austin Energy Service territory. So shared solar. I hope to one day be telling you how successful shared solar is, but I can say that we've made a lot of progress towards getting this installed into our billing system. So the idea of shared solar is that when you have a big multi-family apartment complex, rather than doing 120 separate interconnections behind each residential meter with another meter and inverters and other stuff and disconnects and whatnot on the equipment wall, you have a single point of interconnection that's on the utility side of the meter. We then measure that generation and disaggregate it and assign it to a virtual meter that's on the customer's account. So we've been working on getting this set up in the billing system for years now. It is pretty technical, and we are hopefully in our last stage of testing before we can stand it up in the billing system and let these systems bill naturally. We have been billing them by hand since 2018, and we're very excited to not do that anymore. So in the next coming weeks, we'll know whether or not this is successful in the billing system. And then we will let that ride in the billing system for 6 months to make sure that there aren't any surprises before we launch a program around it. That program will be limited to nonprofits and low-income multifamily at first until we iron out the kinks of the program, and then we plan to open it up more broadly to all multifamily. So stay tuned on that. We should be making some announcements about that program design in the coming months, as long as we're successful with this UAT testing that we will hopefully conclude soon. And community solar. So I think this is like one of the programs that I'm most excited about. I think there's a lot of potential here. The idea is that we can leverage our ability to buy multiple projects of solar or solar at scale to get the economies of scale. And then we can take that production and allocate it to our customers without them actually having to install a PV system. So this breaks down the barriers to solar for renters, homeowners with shaded roofs, people that aren't able to make that upfront investment or just don't want to, customers with poor credit. And it also gives us a unique ability to reach into the low income community and help them get access to solar. This aligns with our goals set forth in the generation plan. It helps to stimulate Austin's local economy because all of these projects utilize the local workforce. We have components in our RFPs, our last RFP, and all of our community solar RFPs moving forward that require the respondents to tell us how they're going to integrate with workforce development programs. It is the first Greenie certified community solar program in the country. and it offsets 100% of all of the customer's usage. So the way it works is the community solar charge replaces the power supply adjustment fee, and half of the program is set aside for CAP customers. And so CAP customers are customer assistance program customers who are income qualified. The CAP customers get to participate with a discount, so they actually see a slight bill savings on their bill, and there's no upfront cost or any costs associated with their participation. So quickly running through those community solar projects, we've got the Palmer Event Center, La Loma, which has a co-located battery. We're super excited that the ABIA community solar project has just went online and is active. We've mostly pre-subscribed that project, so there's limited availability to this program currently, but we do have plans for expansion. The seats that are available are CAP program seats. So, you know, if you're eligible, then you can go online and get onto the program.
A question about community solar, comparing that with green choice. If you could just highlight the differences between community solar versus green choice.
Yeah, so green choice is tied to West Texas wind projects. And so I think the important distinctions is that community solar is local, and so it provides those local economic benefits. Also, it has a low income component and a workforce development component. It has like an end of life plan component to it. So I think, like, you know, just because of all of that, I think there's quite a bit more community value to the community solar program. And so that's why we're so excited about it and looking forward to its expansion. And in an effort to get there, we put out a local solar RFP this summer, which has closed. It looked for distributed grid connected solar. And as I mentioned, workforce development plans, end of life plans, and partnership opportunities with our customers for community solar site as community solar site hosts. These RFPs, or I'm sorry, these proposals are still being evaluated, and we're in negotiations with a few of the proposers. So that's still in the works, and we'll have more information on that as it develops. So now to the commercial solar incentive program. I'm going to give you a little bit of the history and tell you how we arrived at these suggestions. So the program began back in 2004 with all of the other solar incentive program residential. Back then, the CBI, which is a capacity-based incentive, was $5 a watt. So there was an upfront incentive based on the size of the system, $5 a watt, which is a lot of money, but that's because the installed costs were a lot more than they are today. In 2009, we had a run on the residential program. Some of you were around then and can remember. We had lifted some of the caps for residential, and simultaneously the Pecan Street project started offering additional incentives to our incentives. And so we decided that in order to meet our budgetary needs, we needed to reduce the incentive We announced that in the morning, and by the end of the day, we had $4 million worth of incentive applications, enough to pretty much gobble up the next year's budget. So that was an unintended consequence and a pretty cool little experiment. So in order to adjust for that and get our programs back on track, we shifted our capacity-based incentive for commercial to a performance-based incentive. And there is some beauty to performance-based incentives in that we pay for what we get, and it influences the customer to ensure that their system is up and running. And at the time, it was advantageous to us because we could stretch those incentive payments out over a period of 10 years and free up the current year budget. In 2016, we migrated the program into EECP. We greatly increased the incentive caps, and we created several tiers so that it would kind of address the market hurdles and the fact that those hurdles go down some as you gain economies of scale. And we introduced a ramp down schedule to provide a bit more predictability in the way that the incentive was going to ramp down, so that the local industry could build their business plans around that and not be surprised when we were getting ready to make an incentive change and to try to avoid the same kind of situation as we had in 2009. So as you can see, we've largely ramped down through that program. We're almost to the end. We have a little bit of capacity left at 5 cents for small commercial. The medium is currently at 3 cents and is, or I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. The commercial and the large are both at 3 cents. And large is about to ramp down to 2 cents. So as we've moved through this, we have noticed that the participation is waning, and the thinking when we created the structure of this program was that the installed costs would continue to decrease as they had historically at the time. But as I mentioned earlier, they kind of leveled off. So that's part of the reason that I believe that the commercial participation is waning. And one of the things that we want to address. Another thing we've noticed is that small commercial and nonprofits are not participating at the levels that we would like to see. So while the current program has mainly ran its course, we feel like we really still have market barriers in the commercial side, and we want to try to address those. We want to adjust the program to help us meet our annual goals, which we haven't done for a while in commercial. And we want to send a signal to commercial customers that we are pro solar and are ready to do business with them. So to inform the process, we had commercial stakeholder meetings that included nonprofits, small commercial, and different sizes of commercial stakeholders. We had a commercial contractors meeting to get input from the contractors and their perspective. We put out a survey, and Solar Austin also put out a survey. The surveys were pretty thin. I must say that there weren't a lot of respondents, but we did get kind of the feedback that reinforced the issues that were brought up in those stakeholder meetings. Finally, after we put this program together, we ran it by the internal program leads at Austin Energy, and have pushed it through a portion of the execs. So we still have one last round of approval before we're able to get this launched and put in place. So this outlines the performance-based incentive portion of the program. So currently our PBI is for 10 years, and we're proposing that we draw that back to a 5-year PBI and increase the incentive levels. So for medium, that would go from 4 cents a kilowatt hour to 8 cents a kilowatt hour. For large, that goes from 3 cents to 7 cents up to a megawatt. And where we didn't have any offering over a megawatt before, we are now proposing that we offer 5 cents a kilowatt hour for 5 years for any project that's over a megawatt. Now, so while these thresholds are based on the installed system, there used to be project caps and customer caps in the program. And so we've eliminated the customer cap in this, in the new format. So now you could have, you know, some customers have run through all of their incentives and they were capped out. And so now if they do a project, they don't get an incentive. So those customers will be able to get an incentive again to do more projects. The idea is that for every 15 megawatts we get in the PBI program, these incentive levels will all drop 1 cent. And so the estimated, we plan to run this for 9 years and hit an estimated capacity of 45 megawatts. So one of the concerns that was brought up by small businesses and nonprofits is that you know, they would benefit from a capacity-based incentive and get that incentive paid upfront rather than over time. So for small businesses, any installation that's less than 75 kW would get 60 cents a watt. And for nonprofits, that would be $1 a watt. And they can do systems up to 400 kW AC. So that's a significant change for the small business and nonprofit offering. And we hope that that will also stimulate some new projects. And likewise, this also ramps down for every 3 megawatts, and it's targeted to do 9 megawatts. So that's a projection of what we might see. And again, this is all proposed and has not been set in stone. So, you know, keep that in mind. So we plan to do a marketing push with the release of this that will include case studies for the website, updated content on the website, and paid and internally sourced advertising. The program will utilize 2 modules of EECP, which is our incentive processing tool, that have already been developed. So we just need to do some reconfiguration of those modules. And so that's, you know, that's not a significant hurdle. That's something that we can do relatively easy. There would be no new staffing requirements, and there would be no billing system upgrades or configuration required. And the processes for these incentive processing would not change. We've already developed those. So that's it for my presentation, and I am ready for some feedback if you have it.
Thanks, Tim. I think that we have a few questions that came up on the chat room, and Valerie and Michael were able to help out and chime in so that you don't be bombarded with all sorts of questions at the end.
Great, thanks, guys.
Yeah, they really are a good team. I think that was pretty exciting actually at the end. Those are good news to share. Maybe we can tackle these questions first, unless there's anyone that has some immediate answers or comments right now. But we can start from the beginning of these questions. Okay, thanks, Vero. So if you could do a quick overview. So I guess there's a lot of propaganda, I guess we can call them, about free solar installs about 5 counties. If you know anything about that sort of residential solar changes in the 5-county area.
Free solar installs?
Correct.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Free labor.
Yeah, I don't know how to address that. I've not, that's not been brought to my attention.
Yeah, I think that George, from my experience, I think it's a lot of ads and clickbait that then ends up being as lead generators for people that click it, and then they get sold to solar installation companies.
Yeah,
as somebody
that's a very typical tagline for, especially I think, the predatory companies that, they say it's free because the bill savings are roughly projected to be the same as the payment for the loan. And so they kind of equate that to no out-of-pocket costs. But yeah, be careful reading those. Those kind of advertisements have been around for quite a while now. And we try to address them, but they just keep popping up. We'll squash one and another one will pop up. And sometimes they're really aggressive. They've even used pictures of our staff in their advertisement and cloned our phone numbers, our Austin Energy phone numbers. So, sometimes they can be really aggressive.
Yeah. Don't believe everything you read or hear on social media. So maybe I'll let Chris ask the question about the new 6-megawatt plant and how that plans to move forward a little bit for more solar on city facilities.
Yeah, I know that as Tim mentioned, the new 6 megawatt facility at the airport parking garage just went online. So I was wondering
it's
how
actually 1.5 megawatts.
1.5. Oh, sorry, I thought it was much bigger. Maybe it was 6 acres. The number 6 stuck in my head. Anyway, the bottom line for my question is, how does that success translate into the city of Austin installing more solar on city-owned facilities?
Good question. Yeah, that was a great project because it was interdepartmental. So the airport had a new construction project where they were building a new parking garage, and they had planned to put covered parking on the top with a metal roof. And they approached us and told us that, they were planning to do that. And we started talking about a community solar opportunity there. They were able to offset quite a large amount of money for that steel to do that roofing project. And they ended up just putting up the stanchions And then instead of a roof, we put up the solar array. So there was some synergy there. It was really good to work with another city department and kind of figure out and forge a path to do that and replicate that. Also, that was a PPA. And we haven't done many PPAs on our distribution grid, so they're a bit different than like a West Texas PPA. And so we were able to run the traps on some of the things that we can expect there. And it was a learning opportunity for us and a really good project. And I think that it's great to have it out at the airport with that excellent visibility out there. And it's just a kind of a flagship for the program.
I think so. I've been wondering that many times when I fly out. It's like I can't wait for the day where I see those carports being covered in solar panels and be a multifunctional parking lot rather than just, you know, aluminum on steel. So congratulations. I think that's a good landmark and looking forward to seeing more.
So how does that relate to getting maybe retrofitting some existing buildings, or maybe even your new building that you guys are building up at Mueller to get solar as well?
The new building has solar.
Oh,
Quite a bit of solar. Yeah, and we're working on our relationships with other city departments to try to identify new opportunities for community solar on city-owned buildings and potentially, you know, other community partners as well. So those are efforts in the works, and you know, these kind of things are pretty long roads, but we're starting to travel down them and hoping that those efforts will lead to good projects.
Want to make sure that John and Eric's question about storage and Austin Energy's take on energy storage coupled to solar, if that was answered already by Valerie, or if there's any other areas of clarification are needed. I'll take silence as yes, all questions are answered. Okay, so Matt was asking a little bit more about if you have a sense of the current breakdown costs of installation of residential installations in solar. It says that $3.30 per watt is pretty good, but what are the current soft costs relative to other markets, and how do we compare, if you know any of that? Tough question. Very tough.
That's something we would have to get down and study. I haven't done that recently, so it's not something I can tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think so. And then Stan's asking, do you foresee long-term whether the shared solar structure may evolve into a model for commercial properties with multiple tenants?
That's always been a consideration, and I'm not sure how that's going to go. We need to see how it works out in residential. I would say, I would hope that we've basically tackled or knocked down most of the hurdles there over the years of attempting residential. But it's a one step at a time type thing, and once we get it really kind of solidified for residential, then I think it makes sense to look at that for commercial. But that said, you know, we would need to really look at the use cases to make sure that we're, you know, to make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak, and make sure that we're breaking down a barrier through that effort. Because I know that there is the split incentive issue in commercial, where you have, you know, say a triple net lease with a customer who's paying the bills and the taxes and the rent, and then you have the building owner, and that building owner doesn't have much incentive to provide solar there. So that's always been kind of one of those hard to tackle issues. And, you know, pace might get us there. But, you know, we just need to kind of, let's get shared solar for multifamily first, and then we'll look at how that can be applied to commercial and what makes the best sense there.
That makes sense. That's a good approach. And Stan, I don't know if there's any follow-up thoughts on that.
No, it's good. It's good that it's still being considered. I know it's sort of future and gnarly, but thanks for the response.
Mm-hmm.
Another question was about solar shingles, and if there's any sort of experiences working with those in the Austin energy market, whether they're good or bad, or overall the utility's thoughts on that.
We're pretty neutral on it so far. There are some installations in our service territory. You know, I really like the dual benefit of it serving as a roof product as well. But I don't have an opinion on it. And even if I did, I probably couldn't share it. So, but so far so good. And we haven't had a lot of installations, but they're becoming more frequent.
Yeah, they're becoming more frequent. And I remember reading something along the headlines today saying that Elon Musk admits that he needs to step back a little bit on the push for solar shingles and focus more on solar plus storage. So we'll see how that continues to evolve. It's a novel concept, but we'll see how just regular solar plus storage evolves. Yeah, so there's a couple of questions that James is asking about the virtual value of solar metering across property lines. So kind of speaking a little bit more with multifamily shared housing, but he doesn't understand that this is particular to Austin or other municipalities and co-ops about using multifamily shared solar pilot program. So James, I'll let you kind of elaborate a little bit more on that question to see exactly what it is that you're looking for.
I guess it's called wheeling or something, where you can't bill somebody outside of the property line or credit them for the generation inside the property line. I don't know if I understand that correctly.
Yeah, so wheeling is the practice of basically taking the power and applying it to a facility that's not on the same property as the generation. And that's something that I don't think Austin Energy is interested in. And, you know, most utilities aren't. It's one of those things that can perhaps be a slippery slope. You know, I think that, you know, we can consider all things, and I'm open to conversations about things like that. But, you know, one of the main drawbacks you have there is, you know, there could be an idea that, okay, we're going to start decking out all of these warehouses with solar. So you have a large amount of generation there in the warehouse district. And then the idea is that you take that generation and apply it somewhere else. But what you don't have is a good balance of generation and load in that scenario. So even, you know, there has to be some balance even just behind a transformer. So you can't have a huge amount of generation behind connected to a transformer that doesn't have a significant load. Otherwise, you're going to overload the transformer. So you have, you know, grid issues that can occur from that type of a policy. And then I think there's other like legal considerations as well. But in my experience, wheeling has always been a non-starter.
Well, thanks for breaking it down for me. I think that it helps kind of paint the full picture of like, hey, here's solar, but also here's the grid operators and how they're balancing everything in the middle. You know, which came to a lot of people's education after the February events. And that kind of leads me to ask a little bit more about how was the February experience for Austin Energy with regards to balancing our solar portfolio that is local, but also the needs of the larger grid. Is that something that was handled out of Austin Energy's jurisdiction, or that we had a good balance on it?
I think that, okay, that's a complicated question.
Okay.
But I'll try to address it. So I think that like solar generation as part of our generation mix of the utility, from my understanding, the solar performed nearly as expected, with the exception of when it was snow covered. And that's just part of a weather event. But in terms of functionality, it remained functional and was good to have on the market. And now when it comes to local solar, you know, if your power went down, if you were one of the people, you know, affected and your power went down, then your solar went down too, unless you had battery backup. That's just how solar works to be safe. You never want to backfeed the grid and accidentally electrocute alignment. So there's safety precautions there and functionality built into every solar system to go offline when the grid goes down, or be disconnected from the grid if it doesn't. So in terms of helping us to deal with that event, I don't think the local solar played a huge part in that. It kind of operated as expected, and it did serve to reduce our load. So that enables us to then, you know, allocate what load we were allotted to other customers. So there was that benefit. And Austin's a bit different than some of our surrounding utilities because we have so many critical loads in our service territory. So, you know, hospitals and emergency centers and pump stations and things like that are critical loads, and they need to be served 24/7. So because we were only allotted so much energy, and this is all according to my understanding, and I'm not an engineer, but because we were only allotted a certain amount of energy from ERCOT, we had enough to maintain those critical loads, but not enough to then do what would be ideal and roll the outage for 3 hours a time on different customers, so that we don't have a continued outage for days as we did. So, you know, I think that, you know, we're trying to figure out ways to be more nimble in that situation. There are also, the city is responding. I'm on the Resilience Hub task force team. So we're working on resilience hubs so that people at least have someplace to go in those situations. But, you know, we do the best we can. And I think Austin Energy did a really great job of protecting our customers from the price impacts of the event. So, you know, because we're vertically integrated, we have, you know, basically enough generation to meet our load. That helps us in the market. So if the market spikes and goes up to $9,000 a megawatt hour, well, we're getting paid $9,000 a megawatt hour for the generation that we put in, and then we're buying at $9,000 a megawatt hour. So if you don't have that generation and you're just buying at $9,000 a megawatt hour, then that's where you get into big trouble. So we were able to avoid that.
Okay. That was a great response to a difficult question. Sorry for putting that, but I think that it kind of helped summarize like how we were a little different than the rest of the state, and we didn't suffer as big of a price hike from our utility bills, as we read kind of in the news. So cool to know, and appreciate all the work that you and your team and the rest of Austin Energy have done to just to balance this out, through that February event, but also, as we look forward to increasing our population, also meeting up those projections with, 45 megawatts plus of commercial solar. So it's pretty exciting to see all the different initiatives. I think that Harold had a question a little bit about procurement for utility scale solar and storage, and I didn't see a little bit too much talk about that. So maybe can you talk a little bit about the plans of Austin Energy to procure more utility scale solar plants in their portfolio?
Yeah, we have, I believe that we go out to bid annually now for utility scale solar, and we also look at storage with those. So that's a pretty standard practice for us now. And so we're always on the lookout for good deals and trying to create good partnerships with energy providers out there through power purchase agreements. So I think that's something that we will continue to do, not only on the utility scale, kind of West Texas outside of our service territory, but we're also starting to look within our service territory too.
Okay. And so those are posted maybe at the end of the year on your website, or what's typical cycle perhaps?
I think we usually put those out, and I don't know if there's, maybe I shouldn't say, because I'm not certain that there's an actual regiment to it, but it seems like we typically put those out early summer.
Okay. Thanks, and I think that we'll take one more question here. Ask a little bit about the solar goals of Austin Energy, what you described to increase commercial solar participation, and how that aligns with the climate impact goals of the climate equity plan from the city of Austin. Is there good communication between the city of Austin and Austin Energy so that they both meet our target of being carbon neutral, or is there more work to be done, or are we doing much more than what is needed?
I think we're ahead of the curve. There is definitely coordination. This Austin Energy is a department of the city of Austin, and so we get our directives from city council. Let's see, last year, not last fall, but the previous fall, we did a lot of stakeholder engagement and reworked the generation resource plan, which basically sets out our solar goals. So the goals that I put in the presentation are our current goals out to 2030. That said, we have a goal to totally decarbonize the Austin Energy mix by 2035. And I think that we have a good plan to reach that, and possibly ahead of schedule.
Cool. On that note, I think it's a pretty positive note to see where we're heading to decarbonize it before 2035. I think that's not something many utilities can say today, but hopefully something that many others will follow in the next coming years. Tim, it's always a pleasure having you speak with us, and appreciate your time, all the insight, and looking forward to supporting, spreading the word about the new incentives and anything that you need from Solar Austin. So thanks so much. And to the rest of the people that attended today, appreciate the questions, the participation, and feel free to drop us a note if you have any other questions. Hope you guys have a great rest of the evening, and I'll see you guys next month for our next virtual happy hour. So thanks so much, and have a great night.
Thanks, Juan. Great job.
You're welcome.
Good job, Juan.
Thank you.